Hey, Monday morning, May 8th, 2023. I'm walking to the Lviv city center, take care of some more admin stuff, as one would say. It's a lot of admin stuff you have to do in person here in Ukraine. You know, it's not like Norway where you do everything online with all team. So, yeah, it's different here, but I guess that's what keeps you going. It forces you to get out, forces you to talk face to face with people. That's what I guess I like about here. You know, it's like, when I was visiting India, it's like, the first 3-4 days, I'm like, what the hell am I doing here? And then by the end of the couple of weeks, I've adjusted, and it's almost hard to leave. It's like a whole new reality has taken place. There's a whole life. It's, I guess, because of the people, but I get sick there. I mean, sometimes I'm just dying to get out of there and get home too. But it is people, right? It's just there's people everywhere, and it's like, I went to Turkey. That's why I enjoyed being in Turkey. You could talk to people. People in the shops are chatty, and you have to, bargain and negotiate. Although sometimes it gets to be a pain. In Dubai, there wasn't so much of that. Dubai was like American strip mall. Everything was like, I don't know. It was very much like Las Vegas. I mean, it's cheesy, one would have to say. And people aren't sincere there. And they nickel and dime you. It's like, we want to take food from the cafeteria back to the room. Now in Turkey, they allowed that. Just to keep some fruit in the room or something. Or keep some bread rolls for later or some cookies for later. And in Dubai, they had people watching that all the food stay in the cafeteria. And in Turkey, it was different. In India, do whatever you want. Here in Ukraine, it's pretty much do what you want. Norway, I don't think they would care either. In America, they definitely don't care. I mean, they have rules, but people there are pretty laid back. But yeah, what I talk about today was the coronation of King Charles and my thoughts on the royal family. I watched it. I thought it was going to be Sunday. It was Saturday. I pop on the TV and there it was. And I thought I was only going to want to watch the recap, but once you get into it, even though it was boring, like just people walking around and people standing around, it was kind of interesting. I mean, it's a very historical event. But I don't know, my gut tells me this might be the last one. I mean, there's a big movement in England now, especially with younger people. The younger people don't want the royal family, and I guess a lot of them have immigrant backgrounds and what have you, and this is just inevitable. They have different priorities in life, and probably among the native English people too. I guess it's unpopular because of the scandals. And there's been a lot of focus on how much money it costs to have a royal family. And I think Queen Elizabeth did a good job. And maybe it was needed. Now we have a lot more transparency. The media is more prominent. I mean, when Queen Elizabeth came about, there was no TV, and she needed to moderate the parliament and the leadership. She had those chats with Winston Churchill. Like a head of state, I guess. Like people are saying it should be elected, but I don't know. I'm kind of torn myself. I haven't lived in England. I've only been there a few times, but I don't know. Maybe keep the monarchy, but just do it a little differently. Maybe have elections or something. Who will be the next heir? So it doesn't necessarily go to the firstborn or something. Maybe there's like an election among the top 10 or something. Like a referendum or something so people can choose maybe Harry, for example, Prince Harry or something over Prince Andrew. So it's not so much of a birthright. Something like that maybe would keep it going, keep it fresh. I mean, Charles seemed a bit tired, but I guess it's his age, right? Queen Elizabeth was kind of the exception, not the rule, that she was at 24, I think 26 or something, the Queen of England, and that's why she endured for so long, because her father died suddenly of lung cancer. I think George the VIII, or I think that was her father, and everything, and then, she was like pretty remarkable. I guess she was able to, I was watching this series, The Crown, just kind of keep a neutral opinion and keep her thoughts to herself. There's a lot you could actually learn from her. Like, she just kept a very stoic poker face or something, and kind of just, because there's always like two sides, and she can't really take a side, but she has to still get her views across. I like Charles because he's an environmentalist. Like, even though I'm anti-woke, environment's definitely something we got to take care of. And like Trump mocking the plastic straws and all of this, he really should have come up with something better than plastic, like something made from hemp or something that's biodegradable. It is a problem. I mean, look at all the ocean plastic. Look at the air in Los Angeles. During COVID, there was no pollution. I mean, and then as soon as we started going back to office, the pollution comes back. So there's definitely something to this. I'm kind of with Greta Thunberg on this one. I might be pro-gun and anti-abortion, and I'm also anti-death penalty. I mean, to me, life is life. So it's only God's to take. So somewhere like single-payer health care, that's another anti-Republican one. But, like the pro-Republican ones are like, I'm definitely pro-big military and, pro-American, like American flags, Pledge of Allegiance. Definitely pretty pro on that. So, as I said, it's pretty hard to figure out where I'm going to vote. I'm one of those, what you call a moderate. I'm not on an extreme side. I kind of have views that kind of fall in the middle somewhere. Or I take extremes from both sides, I should say. Like I'm extreme socialist and extremely pro-gun and extremely anti-abortion and extremely anti-death penalty. So, yeah, and when you have views like that, you really don't get many friends. People don't admire you for being a moderate. Both sides accuse you of being a sellout or a traitor. But, I have my own reference points and everything. But anyway, back to that sidetrack, like about the royal family. So, so Queen Elizabeth, she really held, and Charles has got this like environmental thing, and he's got to get that across while, England is, you got Nigel Farage on one side, and you got I don't know who their super liberals are on the other side. But he's got to balance that out now that he's the king. He's supposed to kind of guide the country strategically. That's kind of what Elizabeth did. She kind of gave some strategic guidance, especially the way she handled Margaret Thatcher. I mean, that was pretty commendable because they were actually quite opposite sides of the spectrum, but there was some decorum. And that's what I kind of like about this like royal family thing. It kind of keeps a tradition going, and maybe it's costly, but at the same time it brings a lot of money into England. It gives people a sense of identity. These things are important. And I saw some article that like, Poland is going to be richer than England by 2030. I call bullshit. They were saying that about China is going to be richer than America, and Japan is going to overtake America. This is like just some clickbait crap. This is like this is older than this is older than life itself. Always saying stuff like this. I mean, England's economy is quite complex, and England is actually quite innovative. With this Oxford and Cambridge universities, University of Manchester, there's a whole lot of engineering going on, and a lot of the top Polish people are actually in England. There's a lot of pharmaceutical industry going on. It's not just crappy food and the royal family. I mean, I have to admit the food in England is pretty crappy. It's cold tomato soup. That's like my first memory, going to Madame Tussauds Wax Museum. And then I remember my aunt, that was 1976 or 78, bringing us this cold tomato soup. And I was like, what is this? We ended up eating Indian food. And it turns out now Indian food is the most popular food in England, because British food is pretty, it's pretty boring. But I mean, there's more to England than that. So they have a culture, out of all of Europe, they have a pretty progressive and technological culture. I mean, you don't read about it much, but it's there. there's a lot of good management also for all of Europe. They are probably the best managers. Them and the Swiss are the best managers in Europe. I would even put them over the Germans in many ways. But yeah. So it was like I said. What else? So he and Camilla were just kind of like it looked like deer in the headlights. I guess they were tired, and I was like, can you imagine all the prep work that goes into something like that? And then you're up all night, like, oh, what do? I hope I don't mess this up. I'm going to be on TV. 1 billion people are watching. So they looked. They're in their 70s. I think almost 80 years old. It's like Joe Biden, Ronald Reagan, type, age back when Reagan was, in office. So, yeah, it was, but it was cool. I didn't think I would watch it as long as I did. I was trying to prepare for some other things. But, yeah, I don't know. I just don't know how it's going to continue, though. By the time Charles, his mother lived till 99 years old, and she was born in like the 19. Well, yeah, we can just subtract. She was born like in 1922 or 1924, and around 1948, just after World War II, she became the queen. And now the medicine, the vitamins, Charles eats pretty well. He's actually a physically tough guy. He went through the parachute school in England. He was supposed to be just head of this parachute regiment, and he didn't need to do this. He actually went through the parachute regiment training. And if anyone knows anything about the British military, that's a pretty tough school. It's one tier below the SAS, so a lot of those guys go to SAS. The British Special Forces. It's one of the more popular regiments that they draw from. It's like American Army Rangers. This British paratrooper regiment. I would say, yeah, it's equivalent to. It's like an elite infantry unit. Highly trained. So they're probably on parallel with the Rangers in America, or I would say like U.S. Marines. This Anglico Expeditionary Force. So they go through some basic training and some advanced training, so something like that. And Charles went through that, and I think he can also fly. I think he was also an aviator as well. I know Prince Andrew, they don't talk about him much after Epstein, but he was like flying Harriers or something. And I know Andrew, the prince, is flying helicopters. So I don't know, Andrew, I guess when he becomes king, he might be like 100 or something, because it's quite conceivable Charles could live easily. He's like in the 70s, so easily like 100 years, and then you add the technology and everything, he could easily go 120, 130 years. That's with the medicine that he has access to, and now the knowledge about food and everything is out there. And then, you can get a new intestine, new heart, new liver, new kidneys, and it's just advancing every day, so, yeah, it's going to be a long time. I could say it could be a long time. It's even conceivable. You think it sounds crazy, but him hitting 140 years old, I don't think is out of the, it might sound crazy now, but when you look at how long life expectancy has gone in the last 100 years, I think 100 years ago we were only living 50, 60 years. You were 50, you were an old man. I'm 50 now, I'm running, I'm doing pull-ups, I'm, having a good time, going for a walk, walking fast. I don't have a cane or anything, but 50, long time ago, you're almost dead. So, yeah, this is, so we might not see a second coronation for a very long time. Everyone was saying this is, some young kid was saying this is once in a lifetime, but I think he might see two of them. but he'd be very old when the next one comes along. So yeah, Andrew is like 40. So, and Charles conceivably could live another 60 years. Yeah, could be 100. Yeah, could be anywhere from 80 to 100 when Andrew sees that throne. I would say best case is 70s, like his father. You know that I think that's the best case. I mean, Charles is pretty healthy. I mean, if you look at his life and everything, the way he's living, he's like chilled out, no stress. He's not fat. He's got a garden. I think he's almost a vegetarian. He's really bought into the environmentalism. Kind of like myself. I've reduced meat consumption. I'm open to bug protein. I mean, to me, facts are facts. I know Republican people don't like this. Oh, the government's telling me what to do. But, I've been in Brazil. I've seen the rainforest devastation. You can't deny that. I've seen the world myself. I'm not even watching Netflix or anything. But I was up in Rondônia, Brazil, in a town called Porto Velho. And farmers there are just savage. They only care about how many heads of cattle they have because that's money. And they already own like 20 houses, that they rent out. So like, it's just how it is there. And like, everyone judges you by how many head of cattle you own. I mean, I was living on a cattle ranch up there, and they were just cutting away forest, and then shooting these wild cats like onça. It's like a lynx, like a bobcat in Brazil, because they attack the young cows and everything. So it's like a Texas style, mentality down there. And so I hope Charles brings that message across and everything. I mean, some of the woke stuff, like I said, some of it's okay. A lot of it's very dangerous, very toxic, but it's not a 0 or 100 thing. It's like the truth is somewhere in the middle, as usual. So like the environmental thing, it's like it's something, I don't know, if Republicans were smart and they would, start going through the issues. Like Trump, he gave an interesting speech. One thing I agreed with him on is he said the windmills are like a graveyard for birds, and the materials to make windmills are very toxic. You can't even bury the blades. That is true. I studied nuclear engineering. I know a lot about energy. That is true. And if he could go down that course, that say that clean nuclear energy, that should be his agenda, that we definitely have to get rid of the hydrocarbons, but we do it in a different way, instead of just saying, it's all stupid environmentalism, it's all just liberal bullshit. No, it's not bullshit, but there just needs to be a different approach, because the windmills are wrong and the solar panels are wrong. There is a big environmental toll for those things, and they don't really help much. They're a 10% solution. You need a heavyweight 24/7 energy solution, and really that's going to be nuclear fission for now until we can achieve fusion. But Bill Gates himself said nuclear power plants can be made super safe. There can be a different model. Instead of having a few giant ones like we have in Zaporozhye, you can make them like the size of like train cars, like a container, and it can power up like 10,000 homes, and you have a lot of these spread out. That could be a better solution, and they're made like on an assembly line, Henry Ford style. But anyway, yeah, there's a lot to talk about today. This is kind of, like I say, just my free thoughts here. Hope y'all enjoy it. But anyway, take care. I'm almost there in the center. See you later. Bye-bye.